Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another live stream. Thank you so much for everyone who has been waiting for me. And thank you for everyone joining us. Let's give ourselves a minute just to make sure everything is okay with the live stream. I sent you, by the way, a message previously, and I posted on my community tab as well, that we had a couple of problems with the comments. So anyone posting comments on my previous 3 videos, they had a bit of a problem. And usually the settings for my comments, by the way, and good evening, by the way, because I know the live delays, welcome again, everyone. And I was saying, with the 3 previous videos, there was a problem with the comments. So usually the comments are on. So all of a sudden I publish the video, no comments. You go and they're switched off. And it wasn't me. So you switch them back on, then they go back off. So there was a problem. I reported it to YouTube, obviously. They said they will get back. We'll see what they say. But it's a problem that you just need to be mindful of. That's with the videos, by the way, not the live streams. The live streams are still fine. However, it seems like some of the videos, they got to work back again. And, hopefully it'll be resolved. Anyway, to the main topic of tonight. Everyone says it's a war between Israel and Hamas, right? It's not a war between Israel and Hamas. It's a genocide from a satanic death cult against the Palestinian people. That's what it is. But let's say it's a war between just Israel and Hamas. Let's just take it as it is. Why do you not tell me what Hamas say? Why is it that you only bring the IDF and Israeli officials and you never bring anyone from Hamas? Let alone the Hamas spokesperson. Let alone the military spokesperson of Hamas. If it's a confrontation between Israel and Hamas, I need to know what Hamas is saying. Right? I don't. We'll see what they say. Why? You go and search, nothing. Written statement, if it's hard, you can't find it in Arabic too. What do we need to do? Go and listen to the video, copy, and then translate it. So just before I give you all of the statement, and I thought usually I'll get like snippets, right, highlights. I said today, let me just translate the whole thing and tell you what the guy says, just so people can know what they say. It's as part of our efforts to understand what's happening. We need to listen to all sides. I sit down and listen for Netanyahu for an hour. I listened to Gallant, who called the Palestinians human animals, for an hour to understand what everyone's saying. But when it comes to Hamas, it seems like it's difficult to get a hold of what they're saying. Anyway, I sat there, wrote everything, translated it. Okay? Because people need to know. How comes people don't know what Hamas say? Why? If it's a war between Israel and Hamas. And it's not. It's a genocide against the Palestinian people. From a genocidal, apartheid, maniac, psychopathic state. That's what it is. And it's important for you to know that, by the way. To know that if you're saying it's a war between them, why are you not showing me the other side? Why do I have to go and dig to find what this man is saying? Especially when it comes to people who only speak English. So we translated everything for you. And I'll read you the full word. And obviously, if you have any questions, I deliberately did it in a live stream so that you can obviously share your thoughts and tell me what you think. And again, this is just a translation. This is an effort from me to give to the people the true image of what's happening. And because you obviously don't have it anywhere else. Similarly to how we bring details from anyone related or involved in this genocide, either committing the genocide, or defending themselves from the genocide. So here is the full word of Abu Ubaidah. Mind you, it might take some time because it's all of it. And in Arabic, he spoke for about 20 minutes. It might be the same in English, but we'll see. We might have a couple of mistranslations, but I did my best to make it as accurate as possible. And I'm sure you will get the hint of the message. So he started with the verses of some verses from the Quran, and obviously everything is translated in English. So I'm not going to mention anything in Arabic. It's just going to be in. And mind you, if there are any mistakes, excuse me in advance. So he said, that's his full statement. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. And when they came out against Goliath and his soldiers, they said, our Lord, pour upon us patience and make our feet firm and give us victory over the disbelieving people. So they defeated them, God willing, and David killed Goliath. And God gave him kingdom and wisdom and taught him what he wanted. Had God not pushed the people one by another, the earth would have been corrupted. But God is the possessor of bounty over the worlds. Praise be to God, Lord of the worlds. Praise be to the steadfast mujahideen who are holding on the coals of religion and homeland, who are confident in God's victory despite the betrayal and aggression. And may prayers and peace be upon our Prophet, the martyr, the mujahid, and upon his family and companions, and those who fought his jihad. And after that, sons of our great and blessed people, you heroic mujahideen, brave in the battlefields and in the sites of the sacred bond in Gaza and in all the battlefields and confrontations in Palestine and beyond. O masses, peoples, and forces of our great extended nation, O free people of the world everywhere, may God's peace, mercy, and blessings be upon you. 200 days since the start of the Battle of Al-Aqsa flood, which began with the destruction of the Gaza division in the Zionist enemy's army on the morning of October the 7th, and the first strike of its kind in the country. The history of the entity is a victory for Al-Aqsa and a response for the attempt to destroy and obliterate its identity. The criminal enemy and its barbaric army are still trying to restore its image since that day. But it is only getting more disgrace after disgrace. Whether in the defeat of its army and its resounding failure in the face of the might of our resistance and our people, or in its filthy, brutal image that has been shattered in front of the entire world, which knew this occupation for its hideous reality, as it has never known it before, or in its true form, as a strange entity outside the context of the entire region, summoning at every stop its massacres, its masters to defend it. As a far-off column, and as though my job was an outsider, a day has passed and the barbaric Nazi army is still stuck in the sands of Gaza, with no goal, no horizon, no imagined victory, and no liberation for families. He means obviously the imprisoned Israelis in Gaza. It exploits its predicament on the ground in more blind, retaliatory, and whimsical destruction that has never achieved victory for any of the invaders. And this sadistic army and its failed leadership will not be more fortunate than the murderous invaders throughout history. He will reap more anger, a spirit of revenge, and a willingness to sweep up and confront him in Palestine and around it, and even across the entire world. We heard the leader of the neo-Nazis, Netanyahu, say that his father told him that hatred for them is a virus that renews over time. We tell him this is true and does not need to be discovered by your father, the historian, but what he forgot to tell you, your father, and that this virus is caused by their excessive filth and the blood of innocence that stains your hands over time. Has not forgotten to tell you that this virus is deadly and lethal, and that it is certain outcome is your death and the end of the occupation and a downfall, God willing. This, you arrogant Nazi, poured into your father's rule book, and go back to the books of the Torah and read. In it, there is a feast of God's punishment for those like you who are corrupters on earth, and you will not find any help. I have abated and repented of your truth, for we have known the invaders before you. We bear witness to God among you heresies for 70 years. What is the matter with you? The death is amongst us and among you. May God disgrace you among the invaders. The fools like you have not seen nor heard for 100 days, and our resistance in Gaza is as firm as the mountains of Palestine. There are no mountains in Gaza except for its heroic men, its great people, and the brave fighters of the believers who are coming out and will come out for this enemy from under every ashes and from among every rubble with the power of God Almighty. The world has witnessed part of the bravery of our mujahideen and its painful strikes, not only during the enemy's presence in the direct areas of incursion and fighting, but also during their withdrawal or before their withdrawal from every front they advanced in. They received fatal blows, as we documented in a small part of that operation in Al-Zinna, east of Khan Yunis, and in the various fronts of Khan Yunis, and before it in Al-Maghazi ambush, the Burej confrontations, and the Beit Hanun ambushes. And before, in his killing of Golani in Al-Shuja'iyya neighborhood, and in all the axes of Gaza City and northern Gaza Strip, professional sniping operations by officers and soldiers, hunting and destroying vehicles, and our strikes on the enemy will continue with God's help and take renewed forms and varied and proportionate tactics as long as the occupation's aggression continues or its presence on any inch of our land, O our beloved people and our nation, and O the free people of the world. We are in Izz-ad-Din al-Qassam Martyr Brigades on the 200th day of Al-Aqsa flood battle and of the ongoing Zionist aggression against our people. We affirm the following. Firstly, one of the lies of the enemy government is that it has been continuing for many weeks, is linking the so-called victory in this war with the invasion of Rafah. And its attempt to delude the world that it has eliminated the majority of Al-Qassam military brigades. In the Gaza Strip and in the Gaza Strip and in Rafah, the brigades remain. There are other flimsy lies to escape the truth of the great failure and inability of the occupation leadership to achieve the goals of this criminal war that is unprecedented in contemporary history, and that the enemy's continuous actions and crimes indicate a feeling of defeat and failure, and not a victory or anything resembling victory. It places all its focus on killing children, committing massacres against families, besieging hospitals, bulldozing cemeteries, taking revenge on the bodies of martyrs, sniping innocent civilians from hundreds of meters away, bombing aid gatherings and assassinating members of international relief organizations and local development committees. These are the characteristics of an army that feels inferior, defeated, and greatly disappointed. It is neither a victorious nor confident army. Their alleged achievements, in addition to the fact that they are one of the signs of God in insulting in the face of this vile, usurping entity, are a resounding message to our nation, every free person in the world, that this enemy whose army's pride we crushed in 60 minutes on October the 7th, could not, in a day's time, achieve anything but horrific destruction and massacres. And genocide is mastered by any coward who possesses lethal planes and bombs. Therefore, the enemy and his barbaric army, wherever they searched for victory in any part of Gaza and achieving something that would raise the morale of their soldiers and their public and prolong the life of their Nazi government, will find confrontation. It does not count as spilling the blood of its soldiers, and we remind them that Gaza remains and its resistance is rooted, and they are the departed, broken with God's help and strength. Secondly, the distinguishing mark in this battle is the steadfastness of our people and our resistance, which astonished the enemy and friend despite the Nazi genocide and Holocaust. Therefore, we will not give up in any way the basic human rights of our people. Our noble people and patient people, most notably the cessation of aggression, the withdrawal of the enemy, the return of the displaced, reconstruction, and the lifting of the siege. And the enemy's stubbornness in these issues confirms that this war is nothing but a war of genocide against our entire people, and that he believes that his only achievements, as in they, he or they, the enemy, are destruction and perpetuation of the suffering of civilians and them and cruelty, torment. It has become clear and clear that his government is procrastinating and trying to reach an exchange deal, and is trying to obstruct the efforts of the mediators to reach a ceasefire. And they're lying and misleading their audience with regards to this file, and thus the enemy is floundering, just as it's floundering in everything related to the course of this aggressive war, and wants to gain more time, perhaps prolonging this. The war is due to its sense of importance and strategic failure. We want the enemy's audience. We ask them, where is Shaul Aron and Hadar Goldin, who have been in our grip for 10 years? And where is the Ethiopian prisoner? And where is Hisham al-Sayed? By the way, just to clarify here, all of them have been with the Palestinian resistance for about 10 years, and Israel hasn't released them. So he's signaling that they don't care for their own people. And he continued, they have been forgotten because they are not of the interests of Netanyahu and his wife, nor his extremist government. Rather, we inform you that Ron Arad's scenario may be the most likely scenario, is that it will be repeated with your children in Gaza. And excuse me to also clarify here, Ron Arad is also a missing Israeli soldier, a pilot, who has been missing, who disappeared in Lebanon in the 80s. And that the families of the occupation prisoners will realize, but perhaps too late, that their fascist government has committed a catastrophe and tragedy against them that will remain present for a very long time. And they will suffer after Netanyahu has finished his political maneuvers and his miserable game. The ball is in the court of the audience. The ball is in the court of the audience. Who cares about the enemy is at a critical, dangerous time, and we have promised you throughout our history that we are the most credible and clear of governments, and that tomorrow we will see it. Here we say it clear and concise. words that so-called military pressure and the concept of the criminal Netanyahu and his fascist warlords, which means more bloodshed and extermination of our people, will only push us to remain steadfast on our positions, because the bill of the blood of our people paid will only be paid by taking away the natural rights of our people and the conditions for our just resistance, God Almighty willing. Thirdly, one of the most important effects of Al-Aqsa flood is the mobilization of the nation, the unification of arenas, and the gathering of its fronts around one goal, which is Palestine and Al-Aqsa, which is what the enemy has sought over decades, isolating Palestinian cause and singling out Jerusalem and Al-Aqsa to resolve the conflict and Judaize one of the holiest sanctities for Muslims. Abhorrent normalization was one of the faces of this feverish pursuit by the occupation. The Al-Aqsa flood turns the table on the enemy and turns into a flood of rejection and resistance to it, and a flood of global anger and hatred for this criminal Nazi occupation that has been revealed for what it truly is, stripped of all the cosmetics with which it's deceived the world for decades. Therefore, the enemy's eye is on Gaza and the other eye on the world's reaction, starting with the Arab and Islamic people and the resistance and fighting fronts and direct military and popular support, all the way to all the peoples of the world and entities. And we appreciate every military and popular effort that joined the flood, Al-Aqsa flood. This causes the enemy pain and shame. We single out the valiant fighting fronts in Lebanon, Yemen, and Iraq. We salute the souls of their honorable martyrs, their heroic fighters and mujahideen, and the sacrifices of their proud free peoples. We also call on all the masses of our nation to escalate the resistance actions in all its forms and all arenas, and the hysterical reaction showed by the enemy and its masters towards the resistance action that has come together from various fronts for the first time in our cause in terms of the scope and forms. The enemy's reaction indicates the importance of this resistance action, its impact, and the fear of the occupation, and even its terror of escalation. The first and most important front to move and feel the escalation is the front of the occupied West Bank, which is the flank of this enemy and closest line of confrontation. Who sees all the equations, he applauds the heroes of the West Bank from Tul Karim, Jenin, Nablus, and Tobas to Ramallah and Qalqilia, to whom we salute and call on them to escalate their action and raise their voice. Jordan is from us and we are from it, as every country of our Arab and Islamic land. In this regard, the world has seen how the Zionist entity has been terrified before, during, and after Operation True Promise, in which the Islamic Republic of Iran responded to the Zionist aggression. It responded with its size, message, and nature, establishing new rules, establishing important equations, and compromising the calculations of the enemy and those behind it. Suddenly, the entity summons its allies from thousands of miles away to defend it desperately, and then emerges ecstatic about its defense capabilities after it was bragging about the attack and trying to hide the results and effects of this operation. But we watched and we are all aware of the effect of this response and these strikes, as they confirm that the time has passed in which this enemy revolts without accountability or attacks without response or punishment. In conclusion, our people, our great people, I salute you as you break the aggression every day with your steadfastness on your land, You write the most wonderful epic of giving and teaching the world unique lessons in dignity. Salute to our honorable families, the families of the martyrs, the crowns on the heads of the nation of Islam, and salute to the wounded and their families. To every district, to every Palestinian child, woman, and elderly. You are the pride of the free people of the world and an icon of an unparalleled heroism. You have made and are making history with your sacrifices in the face of a mercenary Nazi army that owns an aggressive rogue state, and all the suffering that our families and children suffer, and every street, neighborhood, camp, and city in the sector, as in Gaza, and in every place where our people are, will remain a witness to the greatness of our people and to the shame of our enemy, and your resistance will remain faithful to your sacrifices and to the covenant of our martyrs, our wounded, and our families, so long that we have blood flowing in our veins. For we are of our people, and they are of us. We carry their banners and their hopes, and we share with them the pain and the sacrifices which will yield victory and glory. With the help of the Almighty, only the patient will be given their reward without reckoning, and God is victorious over his command, but most people do not know, and it is a struggle, victory, or martyrdom. May the peace, mercy, and blessings of God be upon you. And that is all of Abu Ubaida's statement. All of it. Again, we might have a couple of mistakes here and there. Excuse me for that, but I tried my best within a relatively short period of time. And now I'll obviously open the space up for all of you if you have any questions, any comments. Also regarding the other videos that I posted previously, I posted the latest updates from Gaza, by the way. And I have another video coming in about half an hour about Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden. No problem. Thank you for your comments here. Okay. Let's see where we went. We have a lot of comments going back up here. Abid is asking about the flotilla from Turkey. Does it stand a chance? Not with Israel. Because they're in one of their worst periods now with Israel, at least when it comes to statements, you know, because Turkey's president Erdogan, he had very, you know, significant statements previously saying, you know, they might participate with this and that. But clearly, the situation between them isn't great. The situation isn't great whatsoever. And I don't think they will allow Turkey to have any sort of flotillas going to Gaza. Abed, how feasible it is to mobilize civilian militias in different regions to bypass governments, assault military positions, coordination with existing resistance fighters? Look, all of that in terms of like armed resistance, it would depend on the geographical location and how well equipped and well coordinated these movements. Like in Iraq, Yemen, and Lebanon, you're talking about a state within a state almost. So it's important to establish this understanding before you know what they're doing. Like in Iraq, they can run a state with their power. Hezbollah, it's a state. Ansarullah, they're a state. It's not like they're just a movement. So they have a high level of freedom and independence when it comes to conducting actions. With the other countries, it would obviously only talking about civil action, peaceful protests, all of these activities, really. I mean, look at what's happening in universities in the US now. That's giving them a headache. And these things are important. But in terms of like people in the Arab and Muslim world, you're not likely to get any sort of more resistance movements apart from the ones who you already have. Unless you're talking about something against the state, which will lead to a significant shift. And that is not looking like it's going to happen. You obviously have escalations here and there. You have, but not to a degree where they can take down the governments. Naeem Dawood, thank you so much for your comment, and everyone else. Blank Stairs, thank you for your super. And I think I had another. Let me have a look. And Tony Soprano, thank you so much as well for your super thanks. Kate, what's the purpose of Hamas making the statement? Qatar, are they kicking Hamas out? Look, they make statements as and when, really. And whenever someone significant from any side, really, we focus on observing what they're saying, giving it to the people so that they can establish an understanding. With regards to Hamas and their military spokesperson, they send messages to Israel with the person coming out when this, that. And now you're talking about the 200th day, for example. It's in these kind of critical moments, right? They will come and have statements, reassure. And if you notice, they're very much aligned with the political leadership position. Like many people started to say previously, that Hamas in Gaza, for example, is detached from Hamas abroad. They're in conflict with each other, etc. That didn't work. They constantly try and cause friction. And then they started saying that the negotiations in Qatar are run by Yahya Sinwar in Gaza, which is true to a very high extent. But wow, you went from saying they're completely detached and isolated to he's running the show. It's quite an accomplishment, quite a shift. But when you're in such an awful situation like Israel, what can you do but resort to lies and manipulation? We have Joseph Houghton. Will Hamas push out of Gaza? Just 1 second. Will Hamas push out of Gaza and expand their territory? And what is you also asked, and what will be the catalyst to real negotiations? Hamas won't be able to be pushed out of Gaza. You can forget about that. If you can't push the civilian population over the ground from Gaza, how are you going to push Hamas fighters who are under the ground from Gaza? Obviously, they have many people over the ground anyway. Yeah, but when you talk about Hamas, you talk about members of a movement, and they are Palestinian people. This, they're using Hamas as a front. You need to understand that. When this talk about Hamas, what do you mean Hamas? Hamas is an elected government in Gaza. Many of them are obviously all of them from the Palestinian people, in harmony with the Palestinian people. They represent a big portion of the Palestinian people. And this is just a comment, right? It's important to note that. Like, why don't you say Israel and the IDF? Why don't they say push the IDF out of Israel or push this corrupt government out completely, right? They wouldn't say that. It's to control the narrative. People need to be aware of that. So they won't be out of Gaza. They won't go out of Gaza. Israel failed and will fail. The only people who are actually going are the settlers. These are the people who are going. Israel, you have over 3 million people leaving the country. People no longer believe in the state. That's what's happening. What will be the catalyst to real negotiations? If you take Netanyahu out of the equation, you will probably have more results. Clearly, Benjamin Netanyahu is the main obstacle when it comes to the negotiations and reaching a deal. The man was criticized from the negotiating delegation. And some of the things he's done previously are, number one, ban the head of the Mossad from negotiating. 2, putting a restriction on all of them, you cannot reach a deal. This is something that Benjamin Netanyahu ordered the delegation to do. You can't reach a deal. So why am I going to negotiate? Again, he also banned the head of the Mossad, who was one of the key figures in the negotiations, from speaking with the defense minister. Then he was sending people from his office, assistants, to the negotiations to make sure that the negotiating delegation do as they're told. Then when he heard that they're about to reach an agreement and there's something good, there's a good formula, what does he do? He adds more demands. And all of that was revealed by the negotiating delegation, by the way, from Israel, people who he appointed. I'm not bringing this from anywhere else. And people in Israel were protesting when they heard there was a report that was leaked that the negotiating delegation, the Israeli one, was about to reach an agreement, and Benjamin Netanyahu opposed it. Another thing, some people from the delegation said, we receive an order from Netanyahu in the morning to go and negotiate, and we receive a different demand in the evening. Clearly, Benjamin Netanyahu is the one preventing anything from happening. Why is he doing that? To delay it as much as possible. They already said if we continue with the same steps that we're taking at the moment, it will probably take us a year up until we reach an agreement. The man doesn't want an agreement. He wants to delay it as much as possible. He was criticized by Qatar. Behind closed doors, he was probably criticized by the US as well. And if he goes, you might reach a deal. Mind you, you won't reach a solution. You won't reach a solution, but you can reach a deal. ABC, did you have any news about the Iranians visiting Pakistan and what that might have been about? Yes, Raisi went to Pakistan, met with the Pakistani president, prime minister, and they obviously spoke about coordination. He apparently received good feedback from Pakistan after they attacked Israel. And I think any good relations between these nations in the Middle East is very good, very important. Don't forget they had the slight escalation that was resolved pretty quickly. They know who their enemies are and who the people who want to take them down. They know that people are playing the sectarian card against the two countries. They're clearly aware of these attempts. Because the best thing for Israel and the US now is for Iran to deal with Pakistan, or Pakistan dealing with Iran, so that they can go ahead and do what they want. Now everyone is aware. Now everyone's aware of their tactics, of their filth, and their genocide, and their barbarism. Everyone's aware of them. And anyone with an ounce of brain wouldn't give them anything that they'd be happy with. And there was also a meeting between Erdogan and the prime minister, the Iraqi prime minister, he met the Iraqi leadership as well, but they're discussing an economic corridor, which is a very big development, by the way, that will stretch from Iraq to Turkey to Europe, worth about $19 billion. And another important thing that I actually wanted to have a different video about is China and Russia. Just recently, yesterday, they decided to only deal in with their own currencies and completely ditch the dollar as well. Esquerdista, the spelling of Hezbollah or Hezbollah, what is the difference based upon? Nothing really. I just find it more accurate to put an I, because in Arabic it's Hizb or party, whereas Hezb, it doesn't resonate with the original word, so that's why I put an I, because it is closer to the original word of Hizb in Arabic, which means party. Let's see where we are. Angela Brody and Mudassir, thank you so much. I really appreciate your super thanks. ABC, did you think that so much media coverage has been focused on the campus protests in the US to deflect from the finding of mass graves at Nasser al-Shifa hospitals? It's not like they were already talking about the genocide. Like, the mainstream media is as if nothing's happening. You know, you'll have certain days as if nothing's happening. Although if you held one event in Gaza, you can create Netflix series on them up until 2,250. One person, you can create an ongoing series about them and when they're suffering. But the mainstream media wouldn't show it to you. I don't think so. I don't think it's a deflect, because the people who want to know what's happening, they're already not trusting mainstream media anyway. To them, the mainstream media is dead. That's it. It's something to be boycotted. There is no belief, there is no faith in them. And don't ever be fooled, even if they give you good news. It will be honey amidst poison. So be careful of that. I think their coverage of the protest, it's because of their significance. It's a very significant movement. Students going on hunger strikes. It's escalating, and it's very important, to a level where they're calling them anti-Semitic. Like, if it reaches a level where they tell someone anti-Semitic, then they must have done something anti-Semitic. So what do you mean anti-me? I'm Semitic. They're supporting Semitism. If you're supporting Palestine, that means you're supporting Semitism and Semitic people. Asham, the Levant. Pro-Palestine is pro-Semitism. Let's remind people that. If you want to talk about racism against any race, it's racism and prejudice against that race, but not anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is inaccurate. As a matter of fact, it started to be used in the beginning of the 20th century, primarily following the establishment of Zionism to relate the Jewish people to a land, which is a malicious attempt from the Zionist movement to ethnicize Judaism and deflect from the fact that Judaism is a religion, not a race. Why? So that they can establish a state, a neo-colonial front genocidal state, a supremacist state. And if you criticize that state, it's as if you're criticizing the Jewish people. We know your game. You're not going to fool us with that. Come on. Is anyone swearing, for example? You have Jewish people protesting. Like, some of the people on campus are Jews. So what, am I anti myself? Right? Not in our name, Jewish Voice for Peace, the ultra-Orthodox movements, all of these groups. Or would you say they're self-hating Jews? What are you going to call them? That's it. Forget that. And it's a desperate attempt, to be fair. It's a very desperate attempt. Every criticism of Israel, they drag this anti-Semitism facade with it. Kate, Israel start to invade Rafah on a small scale. They are going full scale, or are they poking Iran by bombing Syria, Iraq, and Lebanon? Look, there was a statement from the previous Secretary of the Defense Minister in Israel. He was on the Israeli television. I forgot which channel. But he said that we're already conducting an operation in Rafah, and that the operation in Rafah is not going to be a very large-scale operation. This might be an attempt from Israel to say that we are conducting an operation in Rafah, so that when a ceasefire is achieved, if a ceasefire is achieved, because by the looks of it, we're half a year into it, really, then they'll say we attacked every part of Gaza. Because what they care about is the public opinion, really. Benjamin Netanyahu, he wants the public opinion. The public is realizing that he's lying. It's not that, all of them are buying into it, but he has a lot of pressure, don't forget, because Israel's split between two camps, the more genocide camp, and the anti-war or the anti-genocide, because even when it comes to the people in Israel who want to end the war, not all of them are anti-genocide. Some of them want a different type of genocide, but some of them are genuinely anti-genocide. You see brave Israelis saying, we don't want this genocide. This is a massacre against the Palestinian people. These are brave people with noble, attributes. You have people who want more genocide. Netanyahu is trying to appease to the people who want more genocide. He's criticized for not doing enough. You had journalists in Israeli television saying we should have killed 100,000 in the first month. People coming on live television in Israel saying, let the Gazan children drink from the sewers. Live on television. And the host will say, drink from the sewers. Just tell me yes. Okay. It's not as if they're saying something like obnoxious or anything. That's acceptable language in Israel, ladies and gentlemen. Go and watch your Israeli channels, listen to Israeli media, and see the comments with the Israeli population and what should happen in Gaza. Let no one be delusional. Are they going full scale, or are they poking Iran by bombing Syria, Iraq, and Lebanon? Look, they were petrified by the Iranian attack. Pissed their pants. Petrified. And look at the response. Firstly, they called all of the world to save them. Oh my God, we thought you were this strong country. Why did you have 5 countries defending you? And look how sophisticated the Iranian attack as well. It went through 5, 6 countries' best air defense systems. US, Britain, France, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and Israel. And when you talk about Israel, like the final destiny, they used Arrow 3. Do you know what's Arrow 3? It's an exo-atmospheric hypersonic anti-missile system. It goes over. Didn't do anything. Then they landed in the Nevatim base. And then Israel showed these images, right, of the Iranian missiles landing, with the shovels and the missiles digging up the soil. It's the joke with the video that I posted, this fake images of them, taking this soil and putting it on the side, and they're saying this is the Iranian missile. And at the time we said, I didn't know the Iranian missiles could land and shovel and remove and then land like the, space rockets land. Anyway, they're petrified. And the response that's attributed to them just highlights how petrified they are. Firstly, they don't declare. Secondly, they use toy quadcopters that they bought on Amazon or Alibaba and put a couple of explosives in them. And we saw the reports from the Iranian people. The Iranian people recorded everything. Well, small fireworks. So they're petrified of Iran. I don't think they're trying to poke them, because Iran set the bar now. I told them this is how we respond. If you hit back, And you obviously need to claim responsibility. If you're not going to claim responsibility, you didn't attack. You didn't officially attack. And we saw how Iran considers to a very high extent the legislation, the international approval, all of these things. Not that the genocide cartel supporting Israel would welcome any Iranian response or justify it or condemn anything that goes against any nation that they like, by the way. But they prove that they play by the book. By the book, so far. So far. But neither that attack nor anything else intimidated Israel and deterred it from continuing its genocide in Gaza. If Israel, in the early days, suffered from what Gaza suffered from, so if locations in Israel were leveled and bombed with the same level of bombing they landed on Gaza, then maybe they could have been deterred then. But that didn't happen. And obviously, with any country committing such atrocities, such crimes against humanity, if they don't feel the pain that they're inflicting on other people, then they will continue. And they're obviously being enabled and supported by so many countries. They didn't. They never faced what they inflict on the Palestinian people. Like even when we talk about the Palestinian resistance, putting them to shame and defeating their army, that's to the army, right? The civilians in Israel, they're suffering, or someone being, attacked here and there. That's nowhere near what the Palestinian people suffered from. By the way, they have no idea, they have no clue of the suffering. They mock them, many of them. They'll tell you, oh, they're putting makeup. They're putting makeup. People having buildings destroyed on them, hundreds of bodies piled up. They mock them. Teshikuma, I heard that Hezbollah managed to attack an IDF plane. Is that true? The Hermes 450. Yeah, I spoke about it yesterday. That's an Israeli drone, one of the biggest ones. Not the biggest one, but they took down the biggest one just over a month ago, the Hermes 900. Today they attacked command units in Acre, Golani and Egoz command units. And they had 6 UAVs entering Israeli airspace and 60 missiles. That's according to Israel, by the way. Irene Z saying, Mahmoud, seems like they're using a weapon which makes bodies evaporate. Can you talk about that, please? I didn't hear anything such. I'll look into it, but it didn't come to my attention that they're using something like that, if you mean Israel. Kate saying, can you talk about the new USA weapon microwave that USA wants to use on Iran to disrupt electronic? Look, they're already using, and they have already used all of their most advanced disruption methods with the Iranian attack. Obviously, they constantly develop more weapons, but don't underestimate what they tried to use when Iran attacked Israel. And did you know what happened, by the way? A counterattack from Iran. A counterattack to disrupt signals in Israel, right? And they've done it cleverly. They sent the cheap drones that they mass manufacture initially to get into, because they knew who were they facing. What, did you not think that they knew that they're going to intercept some of their missile. But then 1, 2, 3, immediately before they landed the main missiles that they actually wanted to land, because some people analyze it in a manner that they sent all of that knowing that they're going to be taken down, and then they launched the third and final wave to hit, and they did hit. Which, if that analysis is true, it makes it a complete 100% success rate, by the way. And then you obviously had Israel going back from 99% interception to 84 interception, right? But they have used their most advanced things to try and take it down. They didn't succeed even with that. The Badger, I'm really curious about this. Will this speech be known and broadcasted in Israel? Will Israelis hear the speech? No. I'm telling you from now, no. If this speech is banned in general, from anyone really, most of the Arab population, any Arab-speaking person or anyone understands Arabic will go. We'll see many Arab networks published it. That's why we translated and published it in English. Israel, they will have a mini manipulation report, you know. Abu Ubaida's lying again, or what have you. Although before, when they used to actually bring, because it wasn't the case before, like they used to actually translate more, but then they realized they're serving Hamas or the resistance if they do that, because the Israelis would listen and think, oh, hold on a second, it makes sense, or at least some of them. Like it was very common in Israel in 2006 when they had the war with Hezbollah, that Israelis were listening to Nasrallah more than they do to the Israeli leadership, because they believed them more, and Israelis were lying so much. So they don't want the same thing with Hamas. Because if they do, and listen, they don't know that they don't show anything on the ground. If you see Israel mainstream media, they don't show anything that you see on social media, nothing whatsoever. If they want to show a level of destruction in Gaza, they will show you an image from the top of destroyed buildings and people walking next to it or what have you. That's it. They don't know what's happening. They'll mock it. Oh, we're committing a genocide. They're liars. We're not committing a genocide. We're just targeting the Hamas. That's what they'll tell you. They're completely delusional. They don't see what's happening on the ground. But now, thankfully, you have social media. People can actually, those who want to. And if you want to hear the Abu Ubaida statement, you need to obviously know Arabic, you know, or listen to me if you're speaking English. But you won't see that coming full throttle, because they know it will have a negative, because he will tell them your leaders are lying to you. Netanyahu is this and that. It's like, and they already have that sentiment anyway. They were like, hold on a second, is Abu Ubaida more truthful than Netanyahu? Although they hate him. They don't want to reach that level. FP, does Netanyahu never want to give the Palestinians their rights or two-state solution because they want to continue to have the access to Palestinians' organs and skin? Do they steal the skin? Or yeah, this is what they do. I mean, obviously, that's I know you're the tone of the comment, but have you seen how many organs were missing from the bodies that they found in Nasser Hospital? Missing body parts, missing. It's like you'd never see that in any horror movie. Yet these people are committing it, and it's not splashed everywhere on mainstream media. There's no front pages of anything. Look at the bodies. Look at what this country's doing. Like I said, if you just take one example, it's enough of a story to speak about for a generation. Felix is saying, good evening, Mahmoud. I couldn't react to your latest video. I said I told you in the previous notification in the community tab post that there's a problem. Some of my videos, when they're being published, the comments go off. They get switched off, although I don't switch them off. You have an option as a creator to switch comments on or off. They're on always. That's the normal setting. You go to the setting, they're off. You switch them back on, save. All of a sudden, you go again, and they're off again. So I reported it to YouTube. They said they're looking into it. Let's see what they say. But it's happening now since yesterday on the videos, not the live stream. So and I hope it gets resolved quickly, but it's important for you to still continue watch and like the video or share it, because that will still push the video, because the way YouTube suggests a video is by one of it is also engagement with the video. So if no one is commenting on the video, then they'll think, oh, no one's watching the video. You understand? So if it's something deliberate, it's not good. But then again, it could be a mistake. I don't know. I'm not going to say, this one is doing it deliberately or not. We reported it, and let's see what happens. Connie, thank you. You said, I love every day to hear your podcast. Thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, let's see if we have anything else before we wrap up. Marvin Vergus. Yes, we'll end it with Marvin Vergus. And by the way, Mena Vanessa, thank you so much for your super. You said F-16 bombing Nusayrat. Yeah, they're bombing multiple parts, really. Marvin says, any chance Hezbollah or Hamas rep speaking to UN or any international committee? Look, they speak with them. It's not like they don't speak with them, right? But when you talk about the UN, this organization was established following the establishment of the League of Nations. That was established by the US. I mean, really and truly, the UN is the soft power arm of the US empire. If the UN was a genuine organization that actually did anything good in this world, then at least some of what they have written or their resolutions or laws will be implemented. But what this genocide is showing, and we've known that from day one, it's not like anything new. Anyone who had this observation of the Palestinian case or other wars, really, Iraq and other recent wars, will see that there is no such a thing as international law or UN resolutions being implemented. Because you have a Security Council formed out of a few countries, and if one of them doesn't like something, they'll veto it. And you have an international court of justice that orders a country to stop committing genocide. And what does this country do? They kill another 10,000. And what happens? Nothing. Jungle law. I mean, jungle law is probably more merciful. It's worse than the Wild West. The people in power running these countries, they are worse than any mafia or cartel you have ever imagined. Anyone covering up or supporting what this genocidal state is doing in Gaza, they're worse than any cartel. You know, you see these programs and talk about cartel and crimes and what have you. Talk about, you're seeing mass murder happening in front of you, nothing's happening. So it's not like Hezbollah or Hamas wouldn't speak with them. They speak with them and they engage and they call on the international community and this and that. But when the elite of the international community, who only represent a small minority of the world's countries in general, act like they are the international community, primarily the United States and European countries, then who is there to talk to? Who is there to talk to? Do you understand? But it's not like they haven't tried or what have you, or they don't actually deal with them. They do, but the way things are running now, and that's why we need a new world order, and a new world order is being developed, is being formed in front of our eyes. Not that everything will be magical after it's formed, but something is better than nothing. You need to end this hegemony. And we'll hopefully work for a better future. And we'll wrap it there, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your super thanks. I will hopefully be with you tomorrow. I had another video discussing Joe Biden meeting Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie Sanders, who were pushing him to cut the funding of Israel. Interesting meetings he's having there. Not that we're establishing a lot to happen from them, but they're important. The fact that he's meeting with these figures who are at least vocal against what's happening. So you can go ahead and watch it. Again, if you still see the problem with the comment section, rest assured that I'm working to resolve it with YouTube. Apart from that, again, thank you so much for joining me. Enjoy the rest of your evening or day or night, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.